Welcome to another episode of We Ear Hustling, baby. I am Nubi, the ear hustler. Tonight's amazing guest is Alanna Royale. She hails from Albany, but is now in Nashville. She calls that home. I have to shout out Wax Villain, who is my comrade in this music search for amazing talent, classic sounding music, just the good stuff. And I just want to say thank you so much for accepting my invite for an interview. I have been listening and listening and listening to your catalog, and I'm just excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having
You
me.
are
And
welcome.
shout out to Wax Villain.
Yes, he is so dope.
The world would be a better place if as many people who loved music really engaged with artists and musicians and learned how we live and how to support us the way that Wax Villain really puts the time in to support us. I'm very grateful for him.
Yes, yeah. Because to me, he is definitely the one, like the whole setup, everything. I'll get there. But
Yes,
his is like, mwah,
I
A1.
know. Tasty.
Yes. So I want to say about your voice is that it's there's strength in it, there's softness in it, there's storytelling in it, in the highs and the lows. And that was what caught me, on top of the musicality. The band and the musicians that you work with create such a great feeling, whether it's a mid-tempo, whether it's a slow song. I mean, I'm just in awe of how you guys put this together, and I'm actually surprised that more people have caught on sooner. Even myself, like I said, there's a lot of music out there, and there's a lot of stuff to sift through. And had I not seen what Wax Villain put up, I would never have heard of you. So,
I know.
yeah, this is great. So, talk to me a little bit about coming up in Albany, of all places. I actually have been to Rensselaer,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
I used to live in Buffalo, so not too far,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and it's always interesting to hear the background. So, like, tell me about coming up in music, how you got turned on to it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for listening and for like hearing it like on a deeper level than just, some people just bop to music and it's
Right.
whatever. And other people like really process things and the other people like really want to dig in. And so whenever someone tells me they've like really dug in and they appreciate all the parts of it, that means a lot. So thank you. Um, and so I was actually born in Arizona and I was born on a Marine Corps base in Arizona. My mom and dad are both Marines. So I was born in the Marine Corps base in Arizona, and then they moved to Virginia to the Quantico Marine Corps base there. And then one of my brothers was born there as well. And then when my parents left the military, like honorary discharge, they got divorced. Thank God. And then and then my mom, it's funny as a kid, you see things and you don't question things sometimes. You just kind of go with it.
Mhm.
And my mom was like, I need like a whole ass fresh start. Like I really need to. A lot of my family lives in the DC area.
Mhm.
And I now as an adult woman, I could see leaving marriage and being like, I gotta get away from everybody and just kind of be on my own. So we moved to Albany, New York, and we didn't know anybody there. And we lived in this like shitty little apartment. And, a lot of people say that like music is a big part of their life in their childhood. I love it. You inherit things from your family, from your parents, your aunties, and your grandparents, and things like that. And my mom, like, music is my mom's life.
Mhm.
Like, every type of music, every genre of music. Like, when on Saturday mornings, like, everybody it's funny because I'm white, but there are a lot of brown and black parallels in my life, like where a lot of people would be like, I have a white mom. I was raised by a white mom, but I was raised by a secretly brown mom because on Saturday mornings when it was get out of bed, it's time to clean Saturday mornings, she would turn the Gap band up so loud. And
Oh,
even now when I hear Gap Band's greatest hits, I'm like, I gotta make my bed. I gotta do my laundry.
I love it. I love it. Yes.
My mom played, the hits, the R&B hits, the greats. I was raised on that. Kirk Franklin New Nation, that first New Nation record, with Stomp on it. She wore that shit out. Korn, Led Zeppelin.
Mm.
I mean, anything. Let me tell you, when California Love came out, nobody played that song more than my mom. No clubs, no DJs, nobody. My mom raised me on Tupac and Dre, and like this was like her. I think it was really her escape, as a single mom with no money and no resources and no nothing. I think that like music was a place that she went to, and I think we all can identify with that. And a lot of people use music as an escape in their childhood and even in their adulthood. And that was instilled in me. And some of my like deepest moments looking back on my childhood with my mom, when there was like, chaos around, I can remember the music that was playing at the time that she like
Mm.
found safety and solace in. And then I just ended up doing the same thing. And most all my siblings did too.
Music has always been a way to vibe, to get through something. And so what you're saying is absolutely correct. I mean, coming up in my household, it was Ohio Players, Rolls Royce, like,
Oh, hell
all the greats. But my first 45 was a rock 45, and it was Quiet Riot, Come On Feel the Noise.
yeah. Yes. Yes.
So I'm in my room and I'm, come on, feel
Yes.
the noise, right? So I
Yes.
was exposed to so much. My mother and father are Black. My stepmom was Greek, from
Mm.
Long Island. She was such a pisser,
Oh, yeah.
that type of Long Islander, right? And so she was the one that bought me that record. And so at that time, in that a few years in that span, I saw Marvin Gaye, get killed, and so there was all this music and all these layers and all these things happening. I'm dating myself, but I know that that affected me. And I think that took me on my journey in music. So when you hear about your story, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah. And, it was always like, for me, and as an adult, I've like thought about this so many times, especially doing like a lot of interviews and things where, people have asked me like what musical artists influenced me. And I realized that it's not really just the music. My obsession when I was a child was like a star, a
Mm,
performer,
mm.
someone who could engage on stage and tell stories and bring people in and then sing and then dance, and who was just full of charisma. People who were like stars, like a Cher, Diana Ross, Frank
Ready,
Sinatra,
set, share.
Cher, it's kind of like it's these like people who just had these like total packages. They were like undeniable. Even if you were like, I don't really like their music, you'd still watch an interview, if they were on Letterman or something, you'd still watch it
Mhm.
because they were just engaging. They were just people you wanted to be around.
Mm.
And when I was a kid, I was so deeply obsessed with Michael Jackson and Frank Sinatra at the same time.
Mhm.
And I was like literally an 8th grade girl with pictures of an 80-year-old man all over my bedroom, like walls. It was like Frank Sinatra everywhere, Michael Jackson everywhere. And then, of course, I had Oscar de la Hoya photos sprinkled in
Well,
because
right.
horny teen. Because I was so horny. And so it's like, I just wanted to watch the performances. And even now, when I first got on TikTok, I was like, what am I going to follow? And I was like, I found all these archival channels that are just archived performances from, Flip Wilson
Mm.
and, Ca- um, Carol
Burnett.
Burnett.
Mhm.
It's just like people who were just like entertainers.
Triple threats.
Mhm. And that's really what Madonna, Beyonce, it's like what I live for. But my heart is like so firmly rooted in classic soul music. And so it's been like a journey to figure out, how do I bring this level of showmanship and drag and charisma and like filter it all through a tape machine?
Mm.
Because there's not a lot of people doing that right now. And I carried a lot of like uncertainty because I was like, if no one else is doing it, does that mean there's a market for it? And then I realized no one else is doing it, which is going to make you an individual artist that people are going to be like, you can't compare her to someone else. And I wanted to lean into that and not be scared of that.
We are all in a business of music in some form or fashion, and we're whether we want to or not, we're competing, right? And so
Mm,
you realize that, but you also know, okay, well, this is my thing. This is how I do it. And so I think that you saying that is so important. There's so much like that we ingest visually, sonically, that it's very important for me to kind of get through the nonsense and get to the good shit. And that for me is that's a high. That's a high for me.
yeah.
So listen,
And when you're confident in what you do, that competition can turn into cooperation. And it's
indeed.
like, if you feel confident in what you're doing, then you can reach out to other artists. You feel better collaborating on things because you feel more secure in who you are and you actually get more done. The competition, it kind of like doesn't feel so like stiff and like make or break because you found your own place and there's like a lot of reward in that too.
And people are willing to join the ride with you. Like that's the key, right? Too like get
Mhm.
to say, you know what, I like her, let me spread the word. I went to a performance this past weekend, and you'll probably see it on my page of with Yazara.
Mm.
Duran Bar opened up. Bernard, I always mess up his name. Duran Bernard, who's an amazing singer, he opened up as DJ to be determined. That was his DJ name.
I like that.
But she has performed with Lenny Kravitz. I mean, just she's just amazing, and she did Purple Rain. And when I tell you that that was probably one of the most eye-opening right experiences, because you don't play with Prince, right? You better
Right.
know what you're doing when you
Drop
do
kick
it,
it. Mhm.
right? So I just I couldn't get. I was like, holy crap! Like this is incredible. And so when I've watched your performances, I've looked at your stuff on YouTube, and I've looked on the stuff that you put up on IG, and I'm just like, I need to be in the audience for this.
Oh, I would love that.
I'm coming. I don't know, hell or high water. I'm
Yes,
coming.
please, please.
Ash, yes, before the hurricanes and shit starts happening, before hurricane season starts. One of the other things I wanted to ask you is were you musically trained to sing?
Yes. In my childhood, not so much outside of just, like, public school.
Right.
Um, but I was definitely a trained performer. You know, I took dance class, I did musical theater. I really, like once I always tell people, like, once I realized I could get attention for what I was doing and positive affirmation
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh, I'll ride this wave, like, I'll ride this wave as far as I can." And
Mhm.
then I did have a voice coach, for a very short time in high school. You know, money was tight, so I didn't really do much of that outside of school. But
Mhm.
I did end up going to Berkeley,
Mhm.
School of Music, and I had a voice coach there. And my first time around, I went to Berkeley and I did drop out, and I wasn't really like prepared for the responsibility of school and living on my own. I was a little unhinged.
I love
I
it.
was
It's
a
okay.
little bit of a bad gal, and
Mhm.
I got myself into plenty of trouble, and I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And I left school and I was in a band that was like doing pretty well. So I toured with that band, did a lot of really cool stuff, recorded a lot of cool stuff. I worked with Epic Records for a little bit. And when that fell apart, I was like, damn, okay, now I dropped out of school. Now I'm not touring. The band is over. What am I going to do? And I was like, you know what? You should just go back to school and finish school. You know, my mom didn't graduate from college. She didn't go to college. And my grandmother didn't go to college. You know, my grandmother had an eighth grade education. And at the time, my boyfriend at the time, his father, we were having dinner and his father also didn't go to college, but had made a really good life for himself. And he was like, you know, Alana, the only thing in this world that they can't take away from you is what you put up in here. They can take your house, they can take your car, your wife can leave you, you know, everything can go sideways. But once you have knowledge, it can't be taken away. And I took it really seriously. And I was like, you know what? All my friends have graduated. I'm gonna go back. And so I went back and I finished. And it was a really amazing experience. And it really prepared me for the obstacles I was going to face moving to Nashville and just hitting the pavement, you know?
Yeah.
So I
Now,
did have training, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think listen, it's not for everybody, and then you start adulting and you decide, okay, well, maybe it is for me, and that's okay. I mean, that I think we are as humans, we tend to be very hard on ourselves, and of course, society says, well, you're supposed. I don't have a degree. Um,
Mhm.
And I can tell you that I have been paid well due to my experience, right?
Mhm.
And so that also speaks volumes. So I feel like there's a balance and everybody knows or feels out what's good for them and what's not. Talk to me about getting into drag. What, like, why that? Tell me about that.
Well, as RuPaul says, we're all born naked and the rest is drag. Every day we all get up and we put our own drag on. We all have our own persona and we choose our clothing and our hair and our whatever to tell the world who we are, like we're, outside of ourselves.
Hmm.
And, even like I had this old man came up to me one time at a festival and he was like, "You're an amazing performer. You're so talented. Like you don't need the wigs and the clothes and the costumes and blah, blah, blah." And he was like, "Why do you wear it all?" And I said, "Well, why are you wearing this shirt today?" And he said,
Hmm.
"Well, it's because my wife picked it out for me, so I just wear it." And I said, "Well, that's not really true because if your wife had picked you out a pink velvet button down crop top, you wouldn't wear that because it wouldn't be right for you. So you're kind of like saying that you didn't choose it, but there are limits to what you would wear. You are still choosing it." People think being passive means they didn't make a choice, but you
Right.
are always making a choice. And so for me, I am like obsessed with the idea of like transformation. Like
Mm.
my own phone doesn't recognize my face sometimes because I look different. My iPhoto has 12 different boxes and they're all me and it recognizes them as all different people because I
Wow.
look so different all the time. And I love that. I love like waking up and choosing like how I wish to present to the world day to
Mm.
day. And it follows how I feel. And it's another leg of my creativity, putting
Mhm.
a look together, getting my custom clothes made, getting my wig styled. I'm like, "Ooh, I want to do this look. I want to have like something that's more modern. I want to have something that's more 60s." Like it's just kind of like all part of the storytelling of like the narrative of who I am.
That's
And it's actually like really important to me. And it's funny because when I'm on the road, with another band, I always tell the guys in the band, because it's almost always guys, I say, by the end of this tour, one of y'all is gonna be wearing a wig. I'm calling it right now. And they're always like, "Oh, oh." And then the last night of the tour, someone's like, "Okay, I want to put it on." And you should see, baby, the way the body language changes. A ferocity comes out and they strut and they are like moving differently. And it's like, this is a person who's never had a wig on their head. And as soon as it touches them, they can feel like there's another something in there coming
Mhm.
out. And so I just want people to be more in touch with that thing
Mhm.
that's in you, and that really like helps put it together for me.
I think that it's daring. I think that it takes a lot of confidence to be able to do that. And so I respect the hell out of that because automatically people associate drag with trans and all, but it doesn't always have to tie into that. It
Right.
it ties into you wanting to experience something different. And specifically in your instance, you want to give out to the masses something a little different that they can enjoy, a little piece of you that may feel this way today or that way another day. So
Mhm.
appreciate that, especially in the performance aspect of what you do.
Yeah, and also like, okay, look at Michael Jackson in his gold getup and his glove and the shades and everything. That's drag, okay? That is something that he chose. These are costumes that he has chosen to reflect how he wants to be perceived by the world. WWF wrestling, walking around the arm tassels and the makeup, this is drag. It's like putting something on and it says, I've heard people say drag doesn't conceal who you are, it reveals who you are.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's a big
You're
part of
having,
me.
you're having an outer body experience. You are now, for whatever period of time, a different person, a different
Mhm.
part of who you are. So even let's take it to rap when we talk about the Furious Five and the stuff that they were wearing, bicycle shorts and leggings and shirt open and so I
Mhm.
think that it was also a different way to express. I always I try to have normal conversations, if you will. People are very passionate about how they feel about shit, and for me, you can be that, right? But make it make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just wanted to get your take on why you do it, so that when people see this, they understand, like, this doesn't mean that you are one specific way, and that you should be boxed in or put in a category. You are a performer.
Mm-hmm.
That takes many shapes and sizes. So in my mind, I think it's amazing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the confidence to be able to pull that off, like, I know I couldn't do it. I mean, maybe if I was drunk, but not sober, right? So I know my limitations, but you know what I mean? But I can appreciate it. I mean, I may come from one of your shows and be like, honey, we got to go get a wig made. Let's go.
Yes, you
You know?
will. You
So,
will. I
yeah.
will gather you. I will gather you. I will get you together. I will.
Okay.
I think also, it's it's fun to look at. Like
Yes.
when I am at a show, I'm wearing 4-inch platforms. I'm wearing a see-through rhinestone stone shirt, pants with the hips cut out, and hair to here. I want the attention. Everyone is looking at me. And guess what? That's thank you. Thank you. That's
Right,
exactly
right.
what I want.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I want the wig. It's a short wig where they have the handkerchief and the girl is like this in the photo. I want
Oh, we can
that.
do it.
I want
Yes.
That's the straight pinup. I want that.
Okay,
And
you got it.
so now you're tall as it is though, right?
Yeah, in my whole getup with like hair and shoes, I mean, I'm like 6'4", maybe 6'3".
Some pretty interesting stuff. Tell me about your writing and how you really get into it. Like, what's your process, and what is it that you're trying to convey to the audience through your writing? Let's not even talk about the singing yet.
Sure, sure. Well, so I say, I have this like saying where I say like Alana Royale is makes it's music to make you feel, right? So it's like no matter what you feel, I want you to feel something,
Mhm.
whether it stirs up anger in you or resentment or bad memories or good memories or, good times, hard times. I just want you to like feel something because when I'm writing these songs, like I'm really feeling something and that's why I'm writing it. And there was a minute where I was kind of taking influence from other people's lives and kind
Mhm.
of telling their stories. And I think it's because I wasn't really ready to go so deep into my own shit.
Mhm.
And then shout out therapy. When I put hard time into therapy, I was finally like in a healthy, good place to like really dig into my own shit and start writing songs about my own life, really. And um, when I'm writing these songs, there's always like a different format. Either it's like I just get a melody in my head and that's it. And then I got to figure out what that is. Or I hear a sound. One time I was on tour and my band was sound checking and my keys player just started playing something. And I was like, you got to keep playing that. Let me get my phone. Let me get my phone. We got to record this. And it turned into a whole song. And it was like,
Mm.
I was like, what, just this one little thing you're doing, man. You got to hold on to it. We got to record that. And it's always kind of just like in the ether and I grab it in different ways. And then other times I'll hear a song, my producer or I maybe write a little thing or my guitarist, somebody makes something and it just fills me with like a feeling. Like I
Mm.
just hear a sound and it gives me like a feeling. It's kind of like um like synesthesia, the way people like see colors when they hear certain sounds. I very often see like a visual when I hear like when someone plays me a song, I can like see like what the music video would be or like what the scenery is. Yeah, it gives
Mhm.
me a very like visceral, almost like a fake memory of something that I've experienced that's not real. And
Mhm.
so I like to find something that I want to write about and then maybe like twist it on its head a little bit. And for my last record, instead of twisting it on its head, I was like, we got to go a little deeper. We've got this feeling. Now we got to go like one level deeper and like more vulnerable and scary and maybe a place that's like not comfortable. And that was hard for me not to talk about, but I didn't think people were going to want to hear it. Like I didn't think people would be receptive to it. I didn't think people would be like, "Oh, here's an album of like someone's problems. Like, who the fuck cares? We all have problems. And then I realized that, like, wait, all my favorite songs are people like singing their heart out about their own shit, you know?
All the time. It's about your experiences.
But I was so insecure about that. I didn't think people would resonate with it if it was coming from me. And
Hmm.
you know, I'm a good time gal. People love hanging out with me. I like to cut up. I'm fucking stupid. I'm always acting a fool. Anything for a laugh. I have no shame. I'll embarrass myself. I'll do whatever. You can ask my brothers. I find myself in crazy situations all the time. And when I was like, okay, you know, I'm realizing that like all these fun and games are coming because I don't want to get serious with anybody.
Hmm.
Because the reality is I'm hurting inside real bad. And if I can just kind of coast up here and have a good time with everyone, then I don't need to like look at all this, and I don't want someone else to look at it either. And then something in me just like snapped and I was like, all right, it's time. Like, we got to do it. And then I really dove into it, and the feedback and reaction is far beyond anything I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I was at the spot, I was like, she was like, oh my God, I've never heard of her. And then, we were going through like all of the artists that you remind us of.
I love that.
Everybody from Michael to Alicia Keys to Christina Aguilera. Like, I was surprised that this young lady, even because she's younger than I am for sure, that she even knew like some of the people that we were talking about. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I believe whatever you have gone through, it has served you well, because
Thank you.
the output has just been absolutely amazing. Like, literally, like from the first time that I heard about you, I immediately went to Spotify, and then I sent my partner in crime, my ace, my spade, my sister, my best friend, and she was like, "Who the hell is this?" And I was like, "Girl,
I know.
like, I just found out about her." You know what I mean? You have done. Listen, nobody's perfect. We go through our shit. We deal in life, and I think that makes for some of the most amazing music.
Yeah, for real. It's crazy. It's very hard to imagine when you're going through tough times that at some point it could serve you, but it mostly always does, you know, in life,
Mhm.
whether it's in another relationship with, friend, lover, in your work, like the hard times really do. If you can embrace the hard times and do the work to get through it and not kind of hide from it or just
Mhm.
tamp it down, if you can really move through it in a intelligent and vulnerable way, that it can serve you.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think you also have to know you, right? You have to understand, right, who you are, so that whatever it is that you're going through, you can take from it, right?
Yes.
And that's the key. That's the part that I think people in the midst of it kind of get lost in. It's like, okay, so I'm hurting, I'm sad, I'm stressed out at work. Take a step back and say, okay, well, how can I look at this differently? How can I mean, I'm going through that crap at my 9 to 5 right now. So I
Mhm.
get it. I'm a fighter. I'm ready. Like, I'm confrontational, and I'm always ready to have something to say. And I realize that my silence is working way better.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
So when you talk about experiences and shaping what you write, how you write, therapy, this is all the stuff that people need to hear. So I appreciate you, one, for even sharing that, and I think that it also will be, inspiration for others to just keep pushing, right, find that way, and then we'll be good.
I would say, obviously I want to sell a lot of records and I want to make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, the conversations I've had after my shows, whether it's in person or when someone like DMs me on Instagram or whatever, the private conversations I've had with people after shows have been wild. So like the show's been so impactful in a way that I did not, sometimes people just need to hear someone say something out loud
Hmm.
for them to be like, "Oh God, thank God someone said it because I'm feeling this way." And
Hmm.
I just need someone to say it so I can feel like I can say it too. I don't want to be the only one out here. And so a lot of doors have been opened and a lot of conversations have been had with my fans. And I take that like pretty seriously. I think that's like a pretty serious responsibility.
It is because people hang on, especially people I think who are a little more emotionally in tune, right? I think, not to pat myself on the back, but I feel like part of the reason that I do what I do, music and interviews, is because I do hear something different, and it
Mhm.
touch me in a way, and it does resonate with me in a way, and there is a big responsibility if you really want to be that type of musician.
Mhm.
No,
And I didn't set out to do it, but I found myself in this place, and it's really interesting. I never thought that this would be this way, but, you just ride the wave, you just go with it.
yeah. I mean, that's all you can do. So, what do you think about the over sexualization in music? And do you feel like that has to be a part of music these days and performance, that it's like a thing?
I think well, I'm a feminist, and I think that a lot of feminism gets stuck in a tricky double standard or double-edged sword, because
Mhm.
on one hand, I am so pro, like, whatever you wanna do. If you wanna be naked and shake your ass and do your thing, I'm like, "Hit it, go for it."
Mm.
Is everyone gonna like it? I don't know. Are people
Right.
gonna not care about your music? They just wanna watch you shake your ass? Vice versa? Who knows? I don't know. I'm very, like, pro do whatever feels good.
Okay.
But at the same time, as someone especially who loves hip hop and always wants to ride for female MCs, there are female MCs out there that don't dance, they don't shake their ass, they're fully dressed all the time, and they do not have the careers that other female MCs do, right? And so it's kind of like it frustrates me because I'm like, we love Rhapsody and No Name and all these like female MCs that are such incredibly gifted artists.
Hmm.
Lil Sims, but they at the end of the day, like they choose how to present their art. And
Hmm.
I think that when you make the choice for how you present it,
Hmm.
you can always choose something else.
Yes.
You could be out here naked doing your thing and then in a couple years be like, I want to switch it up and I'll do something else, or vice versa. And I think it's just important to, especially because the internet allows us all to have an opinion at the same time. I really try to stick to, like, if it's not for me, it's not for me.
Right.
Like, I don't buy Cardi B records. I don't listen to Cardi B records. But if I'm out and Bongos comes on, I'm living.
Right. Right. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Like, I enjoy it. I'm not gonna not knock my head to it. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to see it all the time, but you hit it on the head. Rhapsody, Brittany Carter, Kumbaya, Little Sims. Like, there are so many female MCs out here. Pretty Bully. There's so many people that don't have to do that, and I just wonder, what musicians who are, in my mind, successful like yourself, when you look back, do you feel like, that it's necessary? But I appreciate your answer in that, listen, do you, if that's what makes you happy, go on ahead. It may not be my cup of tea,
Mhm.
but do what feels good. So I respect that.
And if I don't like it, then I just don't take it in.
Right, right. You
Like,
don't.
I just don't look at it. And I think that that's a thing where I think a lot of people feel like they have to, because something's popular, they have to take it in. And
Mhm.
as an artist, I do wish that the artists that I loved got more, I would love for Rhapsody to be a hit maker, to be everywhere, for all her songs to be used on TikTok. Like, I would love that. But it's the same thing with any artist who loves a small artist and they break out into the mainstream and everyone's like, I loved them first. And it's like, okay, so now you get to choose to be happy that this artist got their bills paid, that they can
Mhm.
buy a house, that they can take care of their family. Like, they leveled up. And instead of hating on them for that, see this artist that you love as a person and be like, hell yeah, get paid and make your fucking art and feel good about it. Like,
Right.
you know, it's kind of like, we always say in our band, don't yuck someone else's yum.
I like that. I
And it's
like
like,
that.
if you're out there and you love Nikki, and and you want to get your hips done and your tits done and your lips done and
Right.
be a Barbie doll,
Mhm.
I wish you the best.
I would not have expected her to turn into this
Global.
superstar.
Sensation.
Right. I would have expected her to be a comedian, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was her being her.
Yes, she's an undeniably charismatic person. No matter
Absolutely.
what she's doing, you're watching it because she's so charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just kind of an undeniable person. And I will say, like, people like her, she works.
Mm-hmm.
When she was coming up, she was doing all those shitty nightclub gigs,
Mm-hmm.
doing like, I'm going to be in Atlanta one night. I'm going to be in Houston the next night. I'm going to be in Seattle the next night. That shit takes a toll on you because she
Yes.
wanted it. She
Yes.
wanted to be a rapper. She was like, yo, I practiced writing. She did like the thing that songwriters do all the time where it's like, you got to make so much bad music until you start making good music. And she put the
Mm-hmm.
work in. So I can't really be mad at her. I mean, I don't know why she stays married to that clown, but that's not my business.
Uh, listen, listen, everybody got their hang up. Everybody got that one drug, right?
Yes.
He's her drug,
Yes.
and when she gets tired of it, she'll
Mm-hmm.
move on or he'll get right and they'll be good. But I think the most important thing is, and I hear this in you speaking, is that you have to live in your truth, right? And that's big. Not live in your ego, but
Mm.
live in your truth. And
Oh,
there's a
that
big
ego
difference.
will take you down.
Okay. Inspirations. You talked about Michael Jackson and you talked about Frank Sinatra. Um, if you had to choose right now in this day and age, I'm going to say in the last 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, are there any producers, top three? And it
Missy
doesn't.
Elliott.
Ah!
Missy Elliott.
Oh my God.
Don't even have
Oh
like
my God.
it's it has to happen. It has to. It has to,
Okay.
it has to, it has to.
Mhm.
This another person who never showed body, who never, she was never up, she was always a big girl. She was always fully clothed, but she was always wearing the wildest outfits. Talk about drag. The music videos, she was wearing like, all sorts of like crazy custom work, the fucking garbage bag. It was so
Mhm.
iconic.
Mhm.
She was riding her own wave.
Mhm.
There's nobody else like her. And my favorite thing about Missy Elliott is that, a lot of celebrities, they get a little money. They get very like willy-nilly, the mouth, the loose get like loose lips. They just want to run their mouth all the time. She is silent. All she says is praise God and praise my collaborators. And she just sits in her like majesty.
Mhm.
Same thing with like Mary J. Mary J, she got no kids, she got all the money in the world, and she is just on Instagram looking 50 and fine. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just keep my mouth shut and do the work
Mhm.
and let it go, because they've just done the work. You
Mhm.
never hear from them unless
Mhm.
they're promoting something, and
Mhm.
that's it. They let the work speak for themselves, and they have no children, so good for them. I'm about that life.
Hey, well, I mean, I'm past that. I'm past that anyway. I could definitely see you doing something with Missy.
I would go down wherever she led me, I would go.
Mhm.
Whatever weird vocal effects she would want to do, whatever like any experimental shit, like I am so down. Anyone, it's funny when I was making my last record, my producer Kelly said, "Okay, who are some of your favorite artists where like they've put out record after record after record and you followed them all the way through?" And I was like, Missy, obviously, um, Bjork, Madonna, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, people who were always kind of like switching lanes a little bit, trying new things, and they were always on the forefront. You never knew what they were going to do next.
Mhm.
And as a listener, I trust them as artists to
Mhm.
just do the work, show me something dope, and I kind of like follow them as artists. And he was like,
Mhm.
just be like Beck, be like Missy, just make the record you want to make. Don't worry about who's going to like it. If it's got too many slow songs, too many fucking mid-tempo songs, too much 90s R&B, too much 70s soul. He was like, just make the record that you want to make.
Because you
And
gotta
so
live, you gotta perform,
yes,
you gotta hear it over and over and over again. Like it's one thing to make things for the the masses, right? But and that was one of my questions too. Is like, you know, you gotta make music for yourself first.
yes. And I've heard, I've watched a lot of interviews and like documentary style pieces on Missy Elliott and how when she was coming up, with like Tweet and Genuine and Timbaland Magoo and Nicole Ray and all these people, when they were making records, no one was allowed to listen to outside music. You weren't allowed to turn on the television to watch music videos. You weren't allowed to listen to the radio. They were like, we're going to isolate ourselves. And we already have all the knowledge of the music that we know now. It's right here in the room with us. So let's just tune it all out and let's make something. And when you listen to those records, they weren't biting anyone else. They weren't riding a trend. You listen to the old, like,
they started a trend.
You listen to what's his name? Alicia Keys' husband.
Swiss Beats.
You listen to that era of hip hop and it is like everyone's riding the same wave, right? Like that Swiss Beats, the fucking like Rough Riders anthem, back that ass up, that like Southern shit. Like everyone was kind of in their sort of similar sounds, New York, New Orleans. And now, a lot of trap music. It's like the same sounds, same drum sounds, like it's very similar. And then you drop a Missy Elliott record in there and there's nothing else like it, because she was like, I'm not following. I have to focus on like whatever I've got in my head. And I really tried that for myself. So Missy would definitely be.
Yeah, she's definitely one of my faves. I followed her since she was in the group Sister. And
Oh yeah.
Brand new. And I actually put that video up not too long ago. And I was like, y'all remember this shit?
The black and white video?
Yes.
Yes.
You make me feel so brand new. I was like, oh my God.
So good. Oh my God. So good.
Yeah, she's an innovator. She was one that thought out, outside the box, even when she worked with Aaliyah, God bless her soul, it was just so different. And then of course, Timbaland had his own style. And then, like you said, once they came onto the scene, it was just another new era of music. And then of course, on the male side of that, who was doing stuff, if not a little before, at the same time, we had Busta, right? His animated. So he was like the male version of Missy, except he couldn't sing. That was the only difference.
Yeah.
So no, that's what I wanted to know. I was like, I wonder who your soul, because when you sing, I hear rock and roll, I hear soul, I hear R&B, but there is a continuing, for me anyway, sound, if you will, which is almost, it's orchestra, it's symphony, it's when you, always like the intros to your songs are so intricate in terms of what's put together. I just don't think people really appreciate that part, or let me say, the younger generation, I don't think is going to appreciate it as much as someone who has really been a fan of musicality.
It's definitely not as common to happen in music today because it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
I record real strings. I have to have so many people sitting in the room playing the violin, the viola, the bass, the cello. And these are like highly skilled, trained musicians. And a lot of them play for symphonies, orchestras. And that's not cheap.
Money. No, it's not. It's not.
So a lot of people are like, hey, I only have what I have. So I'm going to have to use like software, a keyboard and kind of like mock it up,
Right.
or I just don't do it at all. And that's why, it takes me a long time to get new shit out, because it's like the horns, the percussion, everything. It's so much money. And it used to be more of like a regular occurrence, like my record collection is full of Quincy and all the work that he did over his lifetime. And, Gladys is really like my number one. Like Gladys is like, I've never met her before. She's the one that like, I would kind of like I'd really like shut down mentally if I met her. I wouldn't talk to her. I would just keep walking. I don't, but like those records are so beautiful. And those like, those later Temptations records, like,
Yeah.
There's so much cool shit in there, and I love listening to it and realizing I'm not even hearing something that's happening because I'm listening to this other thing, but this other thing is happening, and just going through those records over and over again. And like disco records, disco records, you had the band, you had the strings, you had the backing vocals. Like there's so much going on, and I love that. because
Yeah.
you don't even know, we've talked about this a lot of times. Like everybody listens to Staying Alive and everybody loves Staying Alive. And when you think of Staying Alive, you usually think of the bass line, like the dun 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 dun. But the strings are doing such a huge part. And if you go back and listen to that song, if you took the strings out, you would be like, what's happening?
Right. It's not the same. People, I think that's the thing too. Like, I think that I'm blessed and I'm gifted that I can appreciate everything you're saying because I listen for the same thing. I'm friends with Michael Leonard, who's a Grammy Award winning trumpeter. I think he just wrapped up a tour with Steely Dan.
Oh, hell yeah.
He works with an artist that I work with who's a hip hop artist who only does live. 99% of his stuff is live instrumentation.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I've even been even more exposed now to jazz and the greats in jazz through this younger man who is a hip hop artist who doesn't curse, who is a journalism graduate, UNC. Like, this is so I'm being exposed. And so when you talk about this, it just makes me feel like this, I have this passion for certain pieces. Your stuff is like period pieces.
Mm,
It takes me back to a feeling and a time. I was listening to Jeffrey Osborne on the way home today. There's a song called "Concentrate on You," and towards the end, he's talking about a love call that they have. And
mm.
me, that's probably the best part of the song is him saying this call. He's singing it, and I'm like, does anybody else hear this? But is it just
Right.
just me? Like, this is the part that takes me over. And just like you said, Quincy was probably the one of the best to look at and research as well in terms of putting those types of things, orchestrating, because that's what you're
Yes.
doing, right? You're
Yes.
orchestrating a sound.
Hmm.
Um,
And I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the Frank Sinatra records I grew up with that I was obsessed with, Quincy Jones was doing the arranging and the orchestrating for. So it's funny that like I loved Quincy Jones, I loved his music, but when I was old enough to realize that he had worked with Frank Sinatra for a long time as well, I'm just like, oh, and Jared, my guitarist, the way he got into like deep, he is like a deep soul historian nerd. He goes deep. He knows who played what on this and what label put it out, and all, and his 45 collection is massive. And he got into soul music through hip hop because of sampling, because
mhm.
grew up listening to Wu-Tang on repeat, and RZA had a genius musical mind. He knew all these songs. So Jared was like, well, Jared would hear a song on the radio and he'd hear a little quick guitar part and he'd be like, oh shit, that's the loop for this other song. And through hip hop sampling, got into deep soul. And, it just kind of all goes round and round.
Mhm.
And so once you get it, it's like a carousel. Once you get on, you're
Mhm.
in it.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree
that's
100%.
definitely how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a blessing to be surrounded by greatness. Jared is greatness to me. You
Yeah,
know
he is.
what I
Thank
mean?
you.
So, and yeah, when I come, I'm coming. We're gonna have a ball.
Oh, we are. We are.
So now I just wanted to go through a few of your songs and some of the things that I heard. I went all the way back to 2013 on
I
Spotify.
saw
Yes, and I was listening, and I was just like, first of all, you can hear um, the
Evolution.
yeah, the evolution. You can hear you with how much younger sounding you were in 2013.
Mm.
um well, first of all, before I go any further, I just want to reset the room for anybody who's just joined. I am Nubi. This is We Eat Hustling, baby, and tonight's guest is the amazing Alanna Royale, and we are just having a ball. If you ain't watched it up until now, you're gonna have to rewind. So the EP was Bless Her Heart, and the song that resonated with me the most was Rockin' Stone.
Mm.
Tell me about that song.
So, when I moved to Nashville in 2012, I was like, I'm gonna move to Tennessee. And my mom was like, why? My mom was raised by a fucking strict Puerto Rican Catholic woman in New York. And my mom was like, "Tennessee? Like what? Why?" And I had come down here for a really short trip and I had never seen a place like this, before. And I was like, "It's weird down here. It's strange. It's like a whole nother planet." And I had never really been in this kind of environment. And I was like, I was just looking for something new and something different. So I decided to move down there. And my mom was like, well, you can move down there, but I'll see you back in 3 months. Like, you're not even gonna last. You're gonna go down there. She was like, all these gun toting, Bible thumping motherfuckers, you are gonna turn tail and head right back. And I've been here for 12 years now. A whole new world opened up to me here musically. There was like, Americana, folk music, country music. There was a whole culture down here that I didn't know anything about. And I kind of got lost in the sauce because I already knew so much about music, I thought, and then there was all this other stuff to learn. So when I started writing songs for Bless Her Heart, I knew I wanted to make like soul and R&B music, but I had never really done it before. Everything else I'd done before was like rock oriented. And I was like, why is this so hard to write? This is the music I was like raised on. I know it. Why is it so hard? And I that was me just like getting my footing. I didn't know what to do. And so what I did know to write was hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And, I came down here and I was like, "I'm just gonna try this." And my mom was like, "You can do anything. You could move to Tennessee, I don't know why, but you can go down there and be like, 'I'm gonna make soul and R&B music in the country music capital of the world.'" And she's like, "And you can do it. I know you can." And so my mom is a very tough person. She's had a very hard life. We all kinda, like, came through it together. And I know that I have the strength to crush rock and stone, and if there's, like, a wall in front of me, like, I know I can bust through it, and I was told every day by my mom growing up that, like, I have that power, and so that song is just kinda like the tip of the iceberg of, like, writing about hard times
Mm-hmm.
and, like, realizing my own strength and my own power when I was kinda, like, alone down here. I literally didn't know a soul. I knew one person who I went to college with. She owned a bagel shop with her girlfriend, and I was like, "Well, I'll just move to the neighborhood where you live." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I live near the bagel shop girl now that I don't even fucking barely know." And I just started from the beginning, like, no friends, no family, nothing, and, now I live in Nashville, and I just spoke at a Bernie Sanders rally this year representing, like, working class people in Nashville. I was the MC of the Nashville Pride Parade, and
Mm.
I've built myself up here from, like, nobody to being I don't know, I guess a known figure in Nashville, whether it's
Mhm.
political or musical or social, and, I can crush rock and stone. I know, like, nothing can get in my way. If I want it, it might take a while, but I'm gonna do it.
Yes. Now your mom is Hispanic?
Mhm, she's Puerto
Like,
Rican and Irish.
oh, you got the fire, girl. You got the fire. No wonder what's your sign?
I'm a Gemini. I'm a
Mhm.
chaotic, dual personality Gemini. That's one of the reasons why I'm two-headed on my album cover,
Uh-huh. Makes sense.
because we call it Inside Alana and Outside Alana, and it's like Inside Alana, like, we can be on tour and I can do, like, the whole show, the after, the meet and greet, the merch, everything, load in and out, get in the van, get to the hotel, and tell my band, "I've had a fucking migraine for 8 hours. I'm, like, on the verge of tears. My head hurts so fucking bad. I feel like shit." And they're all like, "Where did this come from? We just
Mhm.
watched you do this whole thing for hours and you didn't flinch." And I'm like, "Well, cuz I'm working. Like, I got a job to do. People paid their hard-earned money to come here. I'm going to give it to them, but then, like, as soon as I'm off stage, like, I'm suffering. I don't feel good. I'm tired. I'm anxious, whatever." But, like, there's definitely, and they're always like, "Alana, that's kind of like psychopathic that you can, like, turn that off and on." And it's just like, there is a duality inside of me. There is, like, some things that are for me inside and some things that are outside, and I'm constantly having to regulate, like, what goes where.
We're gonna skip around a little bit.
Okay.
The live project, live at Welcome to 1979. When I tell you I felt like I was at Woodstock,
Yeah.
like I mean, it just took me on a journey, you know. Tell me about why you chose to do a live EP of previous songs that you had released. What did you think, what did you think that was going to do?
Mm. So, at that point, I had kind of moved into this like rock and soul thing. I kind of really wanted to do like the Ike and Tina thing. I really wanted like the loud, like R&B, bluesy rock and roll vibe, big horns, background singers, you know, sweat dripping down your body, like high energy, because I was definitely like raised at the altar of Tina Turner. I I accidentally watched What's Love Got to Do with It by myself when I was 12 years old. I did not know what I was going to be seeing. I just knew who Tina Turner was, you know, from TV and being this entertainer. And then I didn't really know the other side of her life like that. I just knew who she was as an icon in the movies and everything. And when I saw that movie and some of the more graphic parts of that movie, you know, the violence and the sexual assault and all that, I remember at a young age being like, Tina Turner is the strongest woman who's ever lived. I've never,
Mhm.
from that time of 12 years old, I have never not seen her as Superwoman, being the most powerful, self-possessed, strongest, baddest bitch. Like, you could never tell me otherwise. You could never argue that like Tina Turner was like that bitch.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to do, you know, I own a lot of like their live records and I just love that energy. There's a little bit of that like Southern gospel tinge to it. It's very like,
Mhm.
so there's Welcome to 1979 is actually the name of a recording studio in Nashville. And it's an all analog recording studio. There's no like Pro Tools or anything. Everything is all to tape. And they specialize in like really rare vintage recording equipment. And so every year they do a recording summit, and people from all around the world pay for tickets to come and learn how to use certain things, how to like learn from the people who run these machines. It's like this big like analog recording summit. And every year they pick a band to come, and everyone who's at the summit crams into the studio. I mean, like I'm talking like you are dripping sweat. There's people flowing into the hallways. There's refrigerators of beers everywhere, food. It's like a big giant live recording party. And then the band sets up in all the different studio rooms. They run us connected all over, and you play down a full live set. And they record it straight to vinyl.
Oh my God.
It's really
Oh
cool.
my God. That happens every year.
Every year, yeah. And so they asked us to do it one year, and I had recorded So Bad You Can Taste It, my release before Trouble Is. I recorded it at Welcome to 1979 with my producer, and the owners of the studio are really great people, and they also have a mastering engineer there who's won like a million Grammys for mastering work on all different types of records. And so they were like, "Oh, we got to get Alanna Royale to come in and do this." So I had my background singers. My keys player that night was my friend Paul, who plays keys for Brittany Howard. He came in and
Mhm.
played. My background singers, Gigi and Alexis, were there, and they are like such badasses. They're like some of the best singers in Nashville. And my producer was in town because we were recording, so he stayed an extra day. Kelly Finnegan from Monophonics, and then he came in and did the last song with us. We did a cover of "When My Love Hand Comes Tumbling Down," and so um, that was all live, like one take. I couldn't even see the band. I could see only a little bit of people here and there. So we were just kind of like going off the sound to connect on it. And it was just like everything was just one take.
That that live, that feeling, that I mean, that was just amazing.
Thank you. That was definitely like, I was like, okay, you know, I've just been trying to find my way. And it's like, I knew I had something. I knew that the talent was there. I knew that the work ethic was there. I was just kind of slithering around, you know, like trying this sound, and it was I wasn't trying to fit into any particular mold. It was just like I like all these things and I don't know how to make them all come together. So I
Mhm.
was just kind of going all around, and it really was like that's why Trouble Is, I think, like hit the nail on the head for so many people, was because I finally found the proportions. A
Mm.
little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that.
Mhm.
And I knew where to put it and for what song and for how to finesse my instrument to we're gonna sing like a little bit like this, a little bit like this, you know, like where are we gonna change the song and it's gonna match the lyrics. And when the lyric is doing this, is the drum set gonna get like harder, or is it going to be like way more splayed out and we bring strings? And I finally was able to be like, okay, it was like the puzzle. It was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
finally feel like I know where everything is supposed to go. And that was like, I said, you got to make a lot of like either bad music or like mediocre music to keep making it. And I think I just put the time and the work in, and then eventually it all came together. And then once Trouble Is was finished, I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing for my next record. Like immediately I was like, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay, let me go again. Let me go again. Like I want to make another record right now. I got it. And obviously I don't want to say too much, but I will say like I feel the confidence that, Eddie Kendricks is my man. Okay.
Ooh.
Eddie Kendricks is my man. And I think that Eddie Kendricks is one of the most like underrated R&B singers ever. And he has two records, The Hitman and People Get Ready. And those two records have been so impactful on me in the last couple years. And I finally feel confident to be like, you know what? I fuck with SWV heavy. That's what I grew up on. It's my lifeblood. Mariah Carey, Underneath the Stars. I have nothing. Give me The Bodyguard. Give me it all. And then yeah, and I also fuck with Eddie Kendricks, and I also fuck with like vintage fucking like recording everything to tape and big orchestras, and like I feel I'm gonna put it together. I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that people who love modern R&B music and people who love classic soul music, everybody finds their thing in there, and it's like this unifying force. And I was scared to do it because I didn't think anyone was gonna like it, and I was wrong. So I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Let me tell you something. You have it. Like you already, I mean, just listening to you talk about how you want to see things come together, the thought process, the historical knowledge and information that you have about somebody like Eddie Kendricks. A lot of these kids that are young that want to sing and can sing, right? They don't have a clue. They don't have any historical reference.
Yeah, the touchstone.
Right. And that to me is key. I did talk to a young lady the other day who sang a Faith Evans song and blew me away. She has it because her mom, and she's 22, her mom played all of that old school R&B. So not only
Mhm.
all school R&B, but gospel. So she's been exposed, but a lot of the younger generation is not exposed. So she did a Shirley Murdoch song, right? As We Lay, but she did the Kelly Price version, and people started arguing with her about, well, Shirley Murdoch did it, so she had to say, I know who did it first. I come from that, but I prefer to
Mhm.
sing this version. I was happy to hear that she was able to defend that. A lot of these
Mhm.
kids don't have that. They just come out and they sing, and they want to sound like
Someone
Summer
else.
Walker or SZA or Ari Lennox, and
Mhm.
and and you just can't. Like after a while, you know, you just can't. You have to be yourself.
I am hungry for that knowledge. I want to know more. I want to get in there.
Mhm.
And I think also people learn things differently now. You used to have to just like, it was like oral tradition. People would tell you stories, you would hear it. Maybe everyone would watch a documentary. Now it's like, you can just look up on TikTok and they'll be like, oh, here's a video of Sheryl Crow. She wrote this song with Bob Dylan and here, blah, blah. And it's like a 5-second video and it's just like, psh,
Right.
gone.
It goes right. Oh, yeah. There's not enough information. And I mean, at 15, 14, 15, 16, I'm not expecting you necessarily to be a record digger, right? Or trying to figure out. But I do think that if you say to me today, hey, I want to put out music, if I'm a manager, let's start with that. And you can sing and I'm working with you. And you tell me, I want you, you're going to have to do some homework
Yeah,
because I don't want you to go out and perform and not know the history of what it is. It's like anything else. If I'm doing a job, I need to know the history of what came before it in
absolutely.
perfect it, right?
I in particular take that very seriously because I am a white person in enthralled and enveloped and in love with Black music.
Girl, you not white. I don't know. Girl, you ain't white. Let me tell you something. That's when you said to me that you're Puerto Rican and Irish, you ain't white, mama. You got some white in you, but you not white. Cut it out. Cut it out. Now I'm gonna tell you, and I'm telling you from the Black community, once you got something in you, you other, you are not you, and you may not be, they may not say you Black, but goddamn it, you ain't white. Your skin may be white. And you ain't have it, but goddamn it, you ain't.
My next door neighbor is a 65-year-old Black woman, Miss Deborah, and I call her auntie. She's one of my best friends. I walk over the yard, I bring my dog, we sit in the room, we drink coffee, I make her banana bread. She is my rock and like my soul in Nashville here. She's become family like me, like with her extended family and everything. And she calls me Spicy White.
I love it.
She
Spicy
says,
white.
"Girl, she's brought all of her sisters. They're all 60, almost 70 years old. She's brought all her girlfriends from church. They've all come to my shows. Every year I do a Christmas special in Nashville. They all come together. She stands 65 years old. She stood in the back of the venue for 2 hours for my show. She's my number one and she's always like, y'all got to come see this white girl sing. She is Spicy White."
Oh my God, hilarious. Yeah, I mean, some of our elders, they're a little spicy with the little verbiage,
Yes.
but I'm gonna tell you, I had a feeling that you were mixed anyway, just by the way that you speak, and then when you said, um, you spoke about your mom, but yeah, listen, girl, I respect what you just said, right? Because you do have white people who come into soul and R&B, and can sing and can. I'm gonna do you one even better. They emulate, and then they don't give credit, and
Mhm.
that bothers me.
Mhm.
Bothers me. I already knew, even if you were straight all white, that you respect the music.
Mhm.
That is so freaking important.
Deeply.
That's
I really do.
we're having issues right now with people saying Beyonce, they don't want to play her country song. Why? Why?
Oh, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's ignorant.
Mhm.
It's just crazy. But that's a whole nother conversation. My whole thing is, as long as you understand the basis, the history, and you
Mhm.
acknowledged it, I'm gonna rock with you all day. I don't care what color you are.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just thankful that I have come across you and your music. I can't wait to meet you in person. We're gonna have a good time.
Yes.
Um, this was an eye-opening conversation, and I'm glad that you were so transparent, because you didn't have to be, right? I mean, you got your wigs in the background, you letting everybody know what it is and what it ain't. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm so with it. You don't even understand. Like, you are a really a breath of fresh air, because there are no airs about you. Like, you
Thank
just who
you.
you are.
Thank
For
you.
those of who are watching, could you just tell everybody where they can find your music, where they can find you if you're touring? Let everybody know.
Absolutely. Well, I my personal motto is buy once, stream forever. So if you listen to my music, you can buy it on Apple, you can buy a physical copy, you can buy a record, and then you buy it one time and then you can stream it forever. I don't give a fuck. But as long as you bought it one time, then I get, my little bit of coin. That feels really good. But I'm on all streaming platforms, everywhere you can find me. I try to keep up on YouTube, but that's like a little bit harder because I like to do bigger scale productions, which means I do fewer. And then I also have a Patreon, which is really fun. And I do some like Patreon performances over there that are like only for Patreon community. And then I will be on the West Coast in the first week of March. I'll be in Atlanta at the end of March, and then I fly out to Arizona and I start a tour all the way across the US with my good friends from LA, the Sinceres, who are a first generation Mexican soul band, and they are incredible. And I did 3 shows with them last year, and then they asked me to come out and open their album release tour. We just really bonded like hardcore.
Do you have any vinyl out?
Yes. So I have actually right now for sale, I have a couple copies left of a limited edition vinyl of this like smoky clear purple for my record Trouble Is. And then I'll put
Please
one
put that
aside.
aside for me.
Absolutely. And then the non-limited versions is an opaque white vinyl. It's just like a bright white vinyl, and it's made to match the spotlight from the cover of my album. The record is like the shape of the spotlight. And we didn't even get into my own personal creative direction for when I make my music videos and my artwork, and how it's like a crazy big long through line, and it's a crazy big story within itself. But we will talk about that some other time too.
Yeah, no, one, I want you to come back, and two, when I get to Nashville, maybe we can just do this in person, and we could
Yeah.
would be amazing.
Yes, actually, there is a record store in my neighborhood called Vinyl Tap that has a small stage, and people do record podcasts there and things like that. And I've played their record store day before, and it's really fun. So if you come here, I got you.
Okay, I'm down with it. I want to thank you. Like, this has been so dope. You're a beautiful spirit. I love your candor. Like I said, your transparency. For those of you who joined us tonight, you got a treat. You got a whole performance. Okay, I'm not really sure where else you're gonna get that for free these days. So I hope that y'all are thankful for Miss Alanna Royale's time.
Thank you,
Again,
Nubi.
yes. Y'all have a blessed evening, and I will see you soon. Peace.